Pretend video is probably gonna be garbage.
The average adult has 5 to 20 pounds of toxic poop in their body at any given moment.
Ads. We see them every day. And when we do, it's almost always against our will. The average American is exposed to at least 5,000 ads per day. If given the choice, most of us would probably prefer to see zero. It turns out that most people don't like being interrupted every 5 seconds by a manipulative sales pitch. Any sane individual would be far better off avoiding ads whenever possible. It's for this reason that marketing is such a tall order. How do you make people pay attention to something that no one wants to see? Out of the 5,000 ads we see...
Well, I have a glitched browser, it has this thing on it. I don't know what that is. It's like a bug. It came with the computer, and I just don't see them.
Per day. How many do we even register as anything more than white noise? The vast majority of marketing campaigns are utterly forgettable, and the handful of ads that actually manage to stand out usually do so for the wrong reasons. However, once in a blue moon, we'll encounter an ad that extraordinarily beats the odds. One that we remember for long after whatever they were selling ceased to exist. In 1986, America's most powerful restaurant empire deployed a marketing campaign so brilliant that it still has a place in our culture more than 35 years later. But the full story of one of advertising's most timeless mascots goes back a bit further than 35 years. It all began with an Englishman by the name of John Gay, who in 1728 would unveil the play of the century. The Beggar's Opera was a theatrical performance unlike anything else in its time. It was an opera that set out to make a mockery of opera itself. It not only ridiculed the conventions of the medium, but served as an irreverent critique of the aristocratic world it often glorified. The Beggar's Opera was one of the first definitive examples of counterculture, one that satirized issues of wealth and corruption among England's most powerful institutions. The show was beloved by audiences, and essentially became the first opera to belong to the common man. This resounding success was due in large part to the play's main character, Captain Mckeith, considered by some to be one of literature's first anti-heroes. Portrayed as a womanizing thief, Mckeith was a character of questionable virtue and undeniable passion, one who succeeded in winning over the audience despite his inherent vices. The Beggar's Opera was the most revolutionary play of its time, and would go on to inspire a whole new genre of satirical comedy in theater. Just 4 years after releasing his magnum opus, John Gay would pass away at the age of 47, never to know what would eventually become of his creation. While his story had ended, Captain Mack's had only just begun.
What is this about advertisement?
200 years later, the Beggar's Opera would experience a revival in Germany. The play would be retooled by Marxist playwright Bertolt Brecht, who intended to punctuate its anti-capitalist themes. Now renamed to the Threepenny Opera, the show would once again captivate the masses. Captain Mack would return to his leading role, now wielding a far more unsavory demeanor.
Oh, I
this
get it.
This darker version of the character would henceforth be known by another name, Mack the Knife. The new moniker quickly caught on thanks to an unexpected addition to the play. Shortly before the premiere, lead actor Harold Paulson threatened to walk out of the production unless his character received a special introduction. With very little time to spare, composer Kurt Weill quickly devised what would become the most iconic musical number of the entire play, the Ballad of Mack the Knife. A song that depicts Mack as a serial killer who stabs his victims to death and dumps their bodies in the river. You might be thinking that this far more sinister version of the character would have made him somewhat unpopular, but as fate would have it, the exact opposite was true. After its successful debut in Germany, the Threepenny Opera would soon be translated and performed in numerous other countries.
I think I know where they're going with this.
By the 1950s, the play had arrived in the United States, where it began a 6-year run as an off-Broadway show. At around the same time, musicians began recording their own versions of the play's defining song. Louis Armstrong's 1955 cover of Mack the Knife established the tune as a jazz staple. Over the years, more than a dozen artists
I think
would
people at the
put
time
their
were
own
so
spin on the
bored and not a
song.
lot of things to
But
entertain.
by far the most enduring version would be the one released by Bobby Darin in 1959.
Bobby Darin singing Mack the Knife. Let's have a nice hand first. The sharp beak has such teeth, dear.
The single rocketed to the top of the charts in the US and UK,
The charts?
cementing Mack the Knife as an international phenomenon. Darin's big hit resembled the popular genre of crooner music, songs characterized by a smooth, soft-spoken male singer
Interesting.
paired with big band jazz instrumentals. The style was most closely associated with performers like Frank Sinatra and Bing Crosby, two figures who are inseparable from 20th century Americana.
Oh,
But considering the sanitized culture of 1950s America, it's unusual how something as dark as Mack the Knife wound up being such a mainstream hit. In a time when you weren't allowed to show a toilet on TV, it's somewhat shocking to consider that one of its most popular songs happened to be about a serial killer. Just like the case with nearly all pop music today, most listeners just never pay attention to the lyrics. With that being said,
As they should.
it's not a stretch to suggest that Mack the Knife was essentially the pumped-up kicks of the boomer generation.
There was this guy in my neighborhood. We used to call him Jimmy Smash. Call him and say, "Hey, Jimmy, sing Mack the Knife." And because he wanted to hang out with us, he'd belt it right out. Yeah, 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 man.
I don't get it.
In just 30 years, the song had reached unimaginable heights from its humble German origin. And coincidentally, at around the same time, a certain other German creation would also experience a meteoric
SpongeBob?
rise in the United States. At the turn of the 20th century, a new food item was quickly picking up steam in the American cuisine. The
Hamburger.
delicacy was thought to have been brought over by immigrants originating from Hamburg, Germany. Of course, this exciting new sandwich would soon become known as the hamburger. And throughout the history of the American diet, no other food would be more influential. The success of the hamburger
This
had
guy.
to do with two key advantages. It was a hearty meal that could be prepared very quickly and very cheaply. The founding tenets of America's most famous industry, fast food.
Hamburgers are good though.
In 1961, businessman Ray Kroc completed what was essentially a hostile takeover of the McDonald brothers and their chain of California restaurants. Under his leadership, McDonald's would revolutionize the American food industry with one
Oh,
simple
McDonald's
vision.
is so good.
The idea that a customer could visit any restaurant in the country and order an identical sandwich. After a decade of aggressive expansion, the Golden Arches would span from sea to shining sea. McDonald's had become one of the first truly national brands in America. The new fast food empire ushered in a new era of commerce, and along with it, a new challenge in marketing.
Sell me this pen.
Oh yeah, this
Compared
pen
to
is
other
this
disciplines,
is so bad.
advertising is relatively new. The practice only began to be seriously studied at around the turn of the 20th century. But while research into the field may still be quite young, it all seeks to answer the same age-old question. Both the art and the science of advertising exist to figure out what people want. Selling a product requires so much more than simply making people aware of its existence.
It's kind of hard though.
power of mar-
What do people really want? Not what they say they want, because everybody knows that whatever they say they want is dog shit. What do they actually
Marketing
want though?
relies on infiltrating the gooey
35
center of
months
human
pipeline.
desire. It attempts to deliver us our grandest fantasies, to exploit our deepest fears and insecurities. The purpose of advertising
Good
is not to
evening,
give people
xQc
what
and
they want,
xQcl.
but to redefine the meaning of want. Most products and services in the economy are totally superfluous. They
What
offer
do I
the
mean?
customer
What I mean is like the Ford quote. You know, if they gave them what they want, they wanted faster horses or whatever, right? But he made the car instead. That's what they really wanted. They wanted to go faster. How do you get that? You get them what they want, not what they said they wanted.
no intrinsic value versus any replacement level item. It is the job of the advertiser to manufacture that value, to convince the customer that a product is more than a product. And perhaps no other company understood this concept
People
more
glad
than
ball
McDonald's,
here.
which sought to brand itself as not just a restaurant, but an American institution. McDonald's prospered by getting working-class families out of their dining rooms and into their restaurants. The Golden Arches came to symbolize an oasis of comfort and familiarity. No matter how far you were from home, you were never too far from a McDonald's.
Yeah.
Across the
Hey,
60s
fucking
and
man,
70s,
dude.
McDonald's marketing acumen brought them tremendous success. Success which quickly drew in competitors. And soon enough, the franchise had several challengers to their fast food
Burger King was
throne.
never a real competitor, though, let's be honest.
The 1980s were truly a landmark time in advertising, as newly titanic brands fought for
25
control
months,
over a
holy
nation
moly,
of
my
consumers.
friend.
The marketing battles fought during this time period would dictate the industry leaders of the 21st century. Companies could see
What?
that valuable
Trillion.
market share was up for grabs based solely on their ability to sell to the American people. As the dominant force in fast food, McDonald's quickly found themselves with a target on their back. All of a sudden, the franchise was under fire from an onslaught of commercials attacking both the quality and quantity of their product. McDonald's was thrust into an advertising arms race, spending millions on radical new campaigns of their own. However, despite their best efforts to subdue their rivals, the company was still losing ground. In order to protect their empire, they had to start thinking outside the box.
Wendy's, Dairy Queen. Dude, guys, where I'm from, Dairy Queen never did anything else but fucking ice cream. Anybody remember this? Any Canadians or Quebec people did? Dairy Queen's was only ice cream.
Fortunately for McDonald's, an unexpected flash of inspiration would come from their biggest business partner.
Penis.
Hi, Max Headroom here with... This is my guest.
In 1985, Coca-Cola was looking to regain momentum following the rocky launch of New Coke.
Oh no,
They would find
the
a
Coke
rather
incident.
unorthodox solution in Max Headroom, an obscure experimental character who had recently sprung up on the British airwaves. The virtual talking head replaced Bill Cosby as Coca-Cola's spokesperson, a change that was met with massive success. Coke had proven the value of manufacturing a cult icon, inspiring McDonald's to brainstorm a character of their own. Like many great creative minds before them, they decided to borrow from the past. And in the winter of 1986, America would be introduced to Mack Tonight.
When the clock strikes
Hold up.
6:30, babe, time to head for golden lights. It's a good time for the great taste dinner at McDonald's.
I'm more than food.
It's Mac tonight. Come on, make it Mac tonight.
Guys, what was that thing anyway?
For the fourth time in his long and convoluted
I don't get
history,
it.
Mack was once again
I don't
on
know.
top of the
You
world.
know I don't know.
McDonald's had deployed a variety of corporate mascots before, but none moved the needle quite like Mack. It was an ad campaign unlike any other in the company's history. The anthropomorphic crescent moon was a surreal window into the soul of American enterprise. It was bold, decadent, and idealistic. A perfect marriage of nostalgia and pure fantasy. For the fast food eating public, Mack Tonight truly delivered something old, something new, something borrowed.
I'm
and
not
something
interested into
blue.
this shit.
While conceiving the ad, marketing executive Brad Ball and
Let me get
director
out of
Peter
Papa.
Katrolis sought to create a veritable Mctopia. The hand-built miniatures and practical costume work gives Mack Tonight an otherworldly aesthetic. A parallel reality where McDonald's has single-handedly ushered in a new epoch of human advancement. A glorious vision of a society that had long since transcended its struggles with crime, poverty, and especially hunger. It was the greasy, delicious future that all of us needed, but none of us deserved. For Los Angeles marketing firm DMJC, it was lightning in a bottle. What was originally planned as a regional campaign quickly expanded
People
nationwide.
WH show no
The ad
trouble
made
to
a huge
spare.
impression on consumers, with some stores reporting more than a 10% increase in dinner-time business. McDonald's brand recognition skyrocketed, giving the franchise the boost it needed to pull away from its competitors.
And in Paris, you can buy beer in McDonald's.
What do they call a Whopper?
I don't know. I didn't go on a Burger King.
Oh.
The character of Mack Tonight was so popular that scheduled meet and greets would draw in over 1,000 visitors from LA to Boca Raton.
What?
Over the next 3 years, actor and contortionist Doug Jones would strap into the moon costume for 25 more commercials. The popularity of the campaign would mark a turning point in his career. Today, he is best known for his leading role of the Amphibian Man in Academy Award-winning film The Shape of Water. It seemed that no matter where or when Mack appeared, roaring success was sure to follow. By the end of the 80s, he was basking on Cloud 9, lifting a fast food empire and its investors all the way to the moon. But in the midst of the company's greatest marketing campaign to date, not all was well in McDonald land. By becoming the face of the franchise, Mack had strayed a bit too far from his roots. The character was originally conceived as a critique of wealth and capitalism, only to eventually wind up as the mascot for the most capitalistic company on the planet. The once iconoclastic Captain Mack had effectively sold out, and unfortunately for him, the pendulum was about to swing in the other direction.
Oh, okay.
As
What does that
fate
mean?
would have it, the corporate gravy train that he now represented would soon betray him, as Mack Tonight was sacrificed for the system. In October 1989, Dodd Darren filed a $10 million lawsuit against McDonald's claiming that Mack Tonight had infringed on his father's song. At face value, it looked like a pretty nonsensical confrontation. Bobby Darin had passed away more than 15 years earlier, and his defining single wasn't exactly the most original composition.
I don't get it.
He didn't write the lyrics, he wasn't the first to perform the song, he hadn't single-handedly invented the crooner style. Like many works involving Mack, it was derivative content that just so happened to be in the right place at the right time. It's hard to say what Bobby Darin even owned that McDonald's could have possibly infringed upon, but due to the oppressive nature of our wonderful copyright system, not even Fortune 500 companies are exempt from getting pushed around by frivolous greed. Had McDonald's fought the lawsuit, they could have very easily won, but they decided that the legal expense was simply not worth the trouble to save an ad campaign that had pretty much run its course. With very little to gain in court, McDonald's chose to bite the bullet. And so, after nearly 4 years of service, Mack Tonight's golden run on the airwaves would come to an abrupt end.
So they smoked
Who
him.
would have thought that after all this time, Mack finally got to experience what it was like to get stabbed in the back. While their fallen mascot was no longer allowed to perform his signature jingles, McDonald's wouldn't entirely give up on Mack Tonight. Starting in the 90s, they would install several Mack animatronics which played retro hits in stores across the country. During this time, Mack would still occasionally appear in commercials, including a brief campaign in 1997.
That's just
that
weird.
year would also see Mack make his debut in NASCAR, appearing as a select sponsor on Bill Elliott's number 94 Ford. In 2007, 20 years after his national debut, a CG Mack would suddenly resurface on the international market, announcing the opening of 24-hour locations in Southeast Asia. But beyond these sparse sightings, Mack Tonight was essentially retired, left to ride off into the sunset as a marketing martyr and a hamburger hero. An ending that was a little too good to be true. By transforming Mack into the perfect company mascot, McDonald's had to omit the character's more distasteful attributes. It was a character who was never designed to be a hero, and one who had spent the past 2 decades running from the sins of his past. The truth is that Mack had built his legacy not through fame, but through notoriety. In a shocking turn of events, everyone would be rudely reminded about the dark side of the moon.
I don't get it. I didn't.
In the mid-2000s, the internet revolution was in full swing. A popular site at the time was the online community YTMND, a place where users could create their own web pages with looping images and audio. The site quickly became a prominent spawning ground for various memes and subcultures, and in the Wild West era of online moderation, practically nothing was off limits. Possibly the most infamous series of events to ever come out of YTM&D just so happened to involve a certain McDonald's mascot. Users had begun posting GIFs of Mack Tonight as early as 2006, but the character's downward descent into degeneracy would truly begin in the spring of 2007, all due to an individual by the name of Farkle. Starting in June, he created several sites combining Mack Tonight with AT&T Mike, a text-to-speech bot that could be made to say anything the user desired. As is the case with many things on the internet, what began as simply goofing around quickly devolved into something very profane and very offensive. Farkle's site soon inspired a variety of imitators looking to make their own twisted interpretations of the once family-friendly character. This heinous new alter ego of Mack Tonight came to be known by a different moniker, Moonman, a name that would live on in infamy. It started with a few racially insensitive chants and quickly escalated to full-blown song covers advocating for crimes against humanity. Some of these songs were so hideously obscene that they have since been expunged from all but the grittiest corners of the web. As the meme grew in notoriety, so too did the scope of its contributors. In 2008, several of the most prolific Moonman posters would form a faction known as the Moon Crew, a collection of users dedicated to the advancement of their new lunar
Wait, so third parties took over the main image of the character, right? Again?
overlord. Together, they would help establish a sophisticated lore around the character, which was unofficially referred to as the Mooniverse.
That's annoying.
In the following months, the Moon Crew would amass dozens of members who made themselves known as a nuisance to the entire platform. Moonman sites were being created with such abundance that they began to draw the attention of outside forces. During this time, many of the most popular Moonman edits would be frequently re-uploaded to YouTube, a platform with far stricter rules than YTM&D. Due to the extremely vulgar content of the genre, most of the YouTube uploads wouldn't last long before getting flagged and removed for community guidelines violations. But despite their short lifespans, the sheer amount of traffic on YouTube meant that it was the most visible place for the public to discover the shocking fate of the fast food legend. Evidently, McDonald's and AT&T must have received some complaints over the meme, with McDonald's issuing copyright strikes and AT&T banning the term Moonman from their text-to-speech service. Even YTM&D attempted to ban the Moon Crew from the platform, but with limitless accounts at their disposal, they could stick around for as long as they pleased. Despite their best efforts to quell the movement, the downfall of Mack Tonight could not be stopped. Moonman was not going anywhere, and for a new generation who had never seen Mack Tonight, it was the only version of him they ever knew. The racist megalomaniac would persist into the next decade, where
Guys, I feel like the end of this is kind of whatever.
he eventually reprised his
I kinda get it.
former role
I don't
as a
get that much.
mascot, this time representing 4chan's
That was good, but it's like, I don't know, it seems it's not going anywhere.
politically incorrect board.
It's not that, it's
And
not
in
even that second.
2019,
It's okay.
the meme was officially inducted into the Anti-Defamation League's list of hate symbols, an ugly ending to one of the most beloved characters.
Guys, I enjoyed it. It was kind of whatever, though. Like, I gotta get the point, though. It was pretty good, though. I'm not gonna finish it, though. It's not like the Bored Ape. It's not the same thing at all. A third party using something as a vehicle and creating something is it's not the same. It's not the same.